Welcome along to a bright wintry day here at the People's Pension Stadium on the South Coast, where we kickstart 2022 with live Women's Super League coverage between Brighton and Manchester City. With the January transfer window open, Brighton have bolstered their squad with Sweden internationals Julia Zigliotti and Emma Kullberg. The Seagulls suffered 2 defeats on the bounce in December and will want to get back to winning ways here today. After 9 games, they currently sit 5th in the WSL table. It was a disappointing first half of the season for Manchester City, hampered by injury and inconsistency. Still though, in contention for a European berth, they'll take heart on the return of one of the world's best in Lucy Bronze. Despite an upturn in fortunes last month, which saw Gareth Taylor's side win their last 2 games of the year, they're still only 6th in the table. It's Brighton versus Manchester City in the Women's Super League. Kick-off here at the People's Pension Stadium is in a little under 15 minutes' time. Let's just have a quick look at how the Barclays WSL table currently stands. Unbeaten in the league, Arsenal remain top with Chelsea 4 points adrift in 2nd place and Tottenham 3rd. Only 2 points separate our 2 teams in action today, with Brighton 5th and Manchester City behind them in 6th, while Leicester City and Birmingham City make up the bottom 2. And joining me here today to watch one of her former teams in action is, of course, the ex-Brighton and Everton defender, Fern Whelan. Fern, Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
See you. It's good to have the WSL back, isn't it? Because we haven't seen any action since the 19th of December. But in hindsight, do you think the winter break did come at quite a good time?
I think it did, yeah. I think, COVID cases were on the rise. We saw some postponements before Christmas. So it's given everybody a chance to go home. If there's any isolation, they can do it over Christmas. We don't have to postpone any games. Obviously, there's a couple this weekend still. But I think, it's given the teams to go away, have a good regroup, and then come again, hopefully fighting fit for the second half of the season.
Let's focus in on the 2 teams involved here today then, starting with your former club, Brighton. They had those back-to-back defeats just before the break, but that shouldn't overshadow what was a brilliant first half of the season, should it?
It was a great first half of the season, yeah. I think, the best that Brighton have had and have started with since they've been in the Women's Super League. Defensively, they've looked really strong and are actually scoring goals, and goals are disseminated around the team as well this time. So, it shouldn't overshadow it. And I think, there's a few niggles before Christmas, which hopefully they're on the mend now. So going into the second half of the season really well, hopefully.
Yeah, looking at the team sheet today, it does certainly look like they're stronger. I guess the challenge now that Hove will set her team is to maintain it. Do you think they can?
I think so. I think, if history shows over the second half of the season's gone past, they've upped their game, they've stepped up, they've done even better. And with their new signings, the Swedish players, they can bolster the squad, bring some experience, and any injuries they do have, hopefully they've now got a lot of cover for it as well. So going strong into the second half of the season. As
for Manchester City, they will certainly want a strong second half of the campaign, not the first half they'll have wanted at all. But with key players coming back now, do you expect them to climb up that table?
Yeah, I think expect is the strong word. It wasn't the best start of the season that they've ever had. Defensively, they've looked really poor at times. And I think going into the second half of the season with key players back, they should hopefully be able to kick on and really challenge for that Champions League spot.
Well, there is just over 10 minutes to go until kick-off here at Brighton. So let's hear from both of the managers now. Earlier on, I caught up with the Manchester City manager, Gareth Taylor. But first, let's hear from the Brighton boss, Hove. Hope, it's been a brilliant first half of the season for Brighton, but given the fact that you did lose those 2 games before the break, did the break come at a good time for you and your team?
Yeah, I think a really good time for us, for players and staff alike. We had a few niggles just before Christmas. It's given those players a chance to recover, reset, and we go again.
You have made changes to your side, as you just alluded to there, including bringing Danielle Carter back in. She was only fit enough for the bench last time. So do you feel your team is a lot stronger coming into today's game?
I think so. We have a fully fit, available squad, which is a good thing. As I said, a few niggles before Christmas. Everybody's come back fresh, revigorated, healthy and ready to go.
I stood here with you after the Manchester United game and you were very disappointed.
Yeah.
You stood out there with your players for a long time after that game. What do you want to see differently from your side today?
I think a little bit more commitment, desire, rather than going a goal down, then having to fight. We've got to be on the front foot straight away. We know what we're up against today, a very, very good Man City side, bringing in their injured players back. So we know they've got some strength and depth in their team. So a little bit more commitment, better ball retention, and really just about having a go.
What can you achieve in this second half of the season? Because we've said it so many times, it has been such a brilliant opening half of the campaign.
I think we've got all to play for. We don't know yet. We're working really hard at training. I think we've got a lot of confidence. As you said, we've had a really good start. We want to be a bit more consistent. We want to compete against the bitter teams better than we have done. And hopefully, based on our hard work and commitment, we might get, points on the board, get something out of today's game, and just build on that going forward.
Gareth, good to see you. City not been in league action for almost a month. Is it good to be back today?
Yeah, great to be back. I think, there's a couple of games that have fallen foul through issues, and thankfully ours goes ahead.
You, of course, found some form just before the break. You can go above Brighton today with a win. Is this where your season really starts?
Well, it started a long time ago, and I think, what we're trying to do now is build on and try and gain some momentum is really difficult. We had 2 positive results before the break. But obviously the break curtails you when you're in the ascendancy. So it's about starting afresh today, making sure we put in a decent performance, give ourselves the best possible chance of winning the game and move forward to the next. Picking
that team must have felt a lot nicer today as well, being able to name Kira Walsh and of course Lucy Bronze in it as well. What will having them back do for the side? Yeah, it's great, especially Lucy. It's the first time we've seen her this season. Steph on the bench as well, first time we've seen her. Kira's been back with us for a short period, but yeah, good to have better options than what we had before Christmas. How much of a boost was it as well last week, getting Lauren Hemp to sign her new contract? Yeah, fantastic. We have a real high respect and a high regard for Lauren, and I think she's a really bright talent, and to have her with us for the next couple of years to continue the journey is fantastic for us. Brilliant. Well, the best of luck today. Thanks, Kelly. Cheers. Yeah, big news that for Manchester City on Thursday. Lauren Hemp signing a new contract with the club, meaning she will stay with City until the summer of 2024. 5 goals for her this season, Fern. How important is she to everything that City are trying to do?
I think she's had a great start to the season, a great first half. The amount of goals that she has scored, as you say, top scorer in the league for Man City. So I think that's great for them. But not only does she score goals, she drives the team forward. She creates attacks. Her dribbling rate is massively high. And, her assists as well. So I think she'll be brilliant for them if she can stay fit. And, as you say, she's signed another 2-year contract. Amazing for them going forward as well.
It does feel like it's been a week of good news for Manchester City, doesn't it? And the biggest news, the news that I'm sure City fans watching on will have been waiting for all season, is to see Lucy Bronze back on that pitch. How big is this for her? And the way that City play, how big is it for how Gareth Taylor wants his team to play?
I think for them to have Lucy back fit is, it's unbelievable for them. And you can see, she's direct. She wins the ball really high up and creates chances for her team. But not only does she create chances as well, she's up there and she wants to score them, so she's scoring goals for them. And it's not like they haven't scored goals, Man City, this season, but they've not been great defensively. And I think for them to have Lucy back in the team is a real strong point for them, because they need to start gaining these clean sheets and start not leaking goals.
Yeah, I imagine for opposition as well. Just when you see Lucy Bronze's name on the team sheet, adds another element to them. Let's talk about Brighton again then, because there's been a lot of standout performers for them so far this season, but it's their goalkeeper that's impressed you particularly.
Yeah, Megan Walsh for me has been a real standout for them. I think not only does she really command her goal, but the amount of saves that she's made. She's kept the second most clean sheets in the league so far this season. And you can see she's really on the ball in terms of shot stopping, in terms of really pushing the team on. And, in terms of she's the highest shot stopper in the whole season already. So she's going to be really key for them today. And she really does command the box as well, in terms of vocally, in terms of the way she bigs the girls up. And I think going forward for them, as you can see here, she's really encouraging and she's really vocal. So they'll be looking for her today to really keep them in the game, especially against Man United last time.
Yeah.
13 shots, 11 saves, so they'll be looking for her today to really keep them in it.
We talk about characters with Lucy Bronze. It sounds like she's quite the character in the dressing room as well. The players are inside now. They'll be coming out for kick-off very shortly. How are you expecting this one to go? Because Brighton don't have the best record here against Manchester City.
No, they don't.
Sorry to bring that up.
No, it's not pretty watching when you look at how the games have gone last time. I think there's been a 7-1 defeat when they were at home last time. So I think they'll be really looking to narrow that today. But I'm really excited to see, because I think they're in a completely different place pace as to where they have been the last time they've played Man City. And then Man City going forward, they really want to up their game. So I think we've got a really tight game on our hands. I think it'll be a really exciting one.
Are these the kind of games that Brighton actually relish now, given the way they've played so far this season?
Definitely. I think they actually struggle more when they come against, you know, lower teams, bottom of the table teams, because it's all about possession, whereas in these games they can really show their fighting character. You know, they'll have bodies on the line, really trying to defend, and actually they've got players this season who can score in front of goal, which is really key to them this season.
Yeah, well, we're really looking forward to this one. I am pleased to say it is finally time for our first glimpse of the WSL in 2022. It's Brighton versus Manchester City here at the People's Pension Stadium. Your commentators are the former Leeds United forward Lucy Ward and Tom Gale.
Thank you, Kelly. In more normal times, the Women's Super League New Year action would already be underway. But with COVID issues forcing the postponement of half this weekend's games, it's Brighton and Manchester City who get to duke it out for the first set of points on offer in 2022. A stark contrast between the two in their respective campaigns so far. Brighton's best ever top flight start sees them 5 points off Champions League qualification with a game in hand. Manchester City haven't finished outside the top two in the past 6 seasons, but find themselves 12 points adrift of top spot. Of their 5 WSL meetings to date, Manchester City are yet to taste defeat, winning 4 and racking up a scoring average of 4 goals per game. So the team news. After 4 straight defeats in all competitions, Brighton make 3 changes after losing here to Manchester United a month ago. Hope Powell welcomes back last season's top scorer Inessa Cagman and striker Danielle Carter. Welsh international Kayleigh Green makes her first start since October. Striker Gu-min Lee is unavailable. She remains in South Korea with her national side preparing for this month's Asia Cup. As for Manchester City, who ended 2021 with back-to-back wins for the first time this season, they make 2 changes to the side who won at Birmingham 4 weeks ago. Lucy Bronze, post-surgery, makes her first start of the season. Gareth Taylor also brings in Keira Walsh, who caught COVID mid-December. Scottish internationals and Jamaican internationals Caroline Walsh and Khadijah Shaw don't make the matchday squad, but Steph Horton is back. She's on the bench and involved for the first time since September. So Lucy, very excited for this one. What do you make of that Brighton team news?
Yeah, I think that Hope Powell will be happy that she's had a little bit of a break. I think she said so in her interview. But I look at Tori Williams at the back for Brighton. I mean, I played in the same team as Tori when she was 16, 17. She's a strong, she's uncompromising defender. And she's got all the attributes. And to be fair, I think she's probably in the best form of her life. She's learnt a position over the years, and I think she's really comfortable in this Brighton team.
And the talk for Manchester City, it's about who's back, isn't it? An incredible squad, but a huge boost with Lucy Bronze and Steph Horton coming back into the fray.
Yeah, I think when you've got players like that who've got so much experience, international experience, and it just settles the team down. You know, that they've not had good results, and when you've got players like...
So we are just a minute or so away from kick-off. Just waiting for referee Emily Heaslip to just ensure that everything is above order. There was slight question marks that we would have a delayed kick-off here. There was concerns over the pitch, but as you can see on screen, the People's Pension Stadium surface is looking immaculate, and we are all set for the first Women's Super League action of 2022. Manchester City will be getting us underway. Emily Heaslip just ensuring everything goes precisely to time. And football continues to show across all forms of the game that there is no room for discrimination. And we are all set here. So the Women's Super League action of 2022 is underway. Manchester City, the visitors in their navy kit, taking on Brighton in their traditional blue and white stripes. As you can see, as the ball drops out to that far side, the snow, which was having the ground staff work incredibly hard this morning. Heavy touch there by White. Chance for Brighton to get a first touch on the ball. Greenwood with a dangerous ball across her own back line there, but look at that for skill from Georgia Stanway. Hemp is able to keep it in play and wins an early corner.
It's a high intensity start from both teams. If you were Brighton, you try and start as quick as possible against this City team, but the City team look full of confidence. When you look at the likes of Lauren Hemp, Georgia Stanway there, that little turn in the middle.
We did hear from Hope Powell pre-kick-off that a strong start from her side was essential. Despite Manchester City's troubles this season, you just look at that team, that squad. It's an intimidating opposition. Stanway, after praising her for that outlet ball, takes a poor corner, but thankfully maintains good territory for Manchester City. What's key for Brighton today then, Lucy, in terms of they're probably going to expect they're not going to see that much of the ball?
No, but I think they've done. I think they should trust themselves and be confident, because they've had such a good first half to the season, Brighton, that and City haven't really. That they come into it strong, and I know they've lost a couple before Christmas, but they should come into it quite confident, really.
Hemp winning another corner, so 2 set pieces in quick succession. And I'm not sure if it's maybe being a judge from previous efforts, but Georgia Stanway is nowhere near this. And it's Greenwood who trots over for the outswinging corner. Slips with the delivery and he's heading goalwards, an early save. And the second time of asking there. Clear sign of intent from Manchester City.
Yeah, it's good early pressure, but like Fern talked about Megan Walsh before the game, so important for Brighton that they don't concede early in this game. They don't want to be coming back from a goal down at home against this really good City team, but Megan Walsh did incredibly well there again, as we've seen from her loads of times this season.
It's Lauren Hemp, the new contract girl, with the header there. I saw her score a header for England back in November, and clearly that's something that's developed in her game. She's renowned for skill and pace and trickery down the outside flanks, but an aerial threat, and the early attempt on goal goes the way of the visitors. Walsh into Greenwood, who just deals with the welcome sun here in Crawley. Space for Lucy Bronze. Defenders are backing off. Cross comes in from Rasso. It's another good delivery. Well defended. City pick up the second ball. Stanway. Back into the Australian, and movement off the ball from Bronze.
Tell you what, they're moving the ball really quickly. Manchester City, they look full of confidence. They've come back from a break, haven't they, over Christmas, and they look a couple of players back, and they're moving the ball really, really well.
Returning Lucy Bronze with the throw. I'm not sure exactly who the intention was for that, but it's helped eventually towards White, who goes down. Slight appeal there, but the referee non-fussed, and play continues. Manchester City really bossing proceedings in this opening 4 minutes. Still 0-0. The home goalkeeper, Megan Walsh, already being called upon with an excellent save from the corner.
Just watch Hope Powell on the sideline then, and I just think Manchester City are first to every ball, whether it's a first ball, second ball, and just wants her Brighton team to just up the intensity.
Time for Manchester City to weigh up their options. It's with Stokes, who's being pressed by Brazil. She's able to wriggle away that, tries to play in White, but once again Brighton really struggling to keep hold of the ball. But they win a throw in quite an advanced position, Lucy.
Yeah, like you say then, Tom, when they do get it, they need to keep it, Brighton, but I just think at the moment Manchester City are working a lot harder, both when they've got it and when they haven't got the ball.
Brighton throw into Danny Carter, but she's unable to keep control, and a lovely turn from Walsh, and as soon as I praise her for that, she passes it to no one. Williams to a goalkeeper, Ellen White, working hard to press from the front. Neat header there from Kennedy. I like that from Greenwood. She doesn't want to hoof it long. She's trying to play it into a teammate. And Hope Powell again pointed this out. Ball retention. When Brighton do get possession, Lucy, they really need to keep hold of it just to take the sting out of Manchester City.
Yeah, and it's not easy, Tom. And when they lose possession, Man City, they're sort of tucking in, so trying to stop all central progression. So it's so difficult. Brighton have to use the width when they do get it and just have a bit more confidence. I think they've been shocked by City's start.
Kennedy's ball over the top. Coombs and Rasso were the willing runners, but it goes through harmlessly into Walsh. So Hope Powell, her 5th season in charge here at Brighton, and her best ever top flight finish last campaign in 6th. So poor clearance from the goalkeeper, latched upon by Stanway, but here we go. What can Brighton do when they have the ball? And Stanway's immediately pressing, too keen, and it will be a Brighton free kick.
Yeah, you look at the job that Hope Powell's come here. Perfect for Hope Powell. You know, she had a look at Ellen White's first. That she was really appealing here that she get a penalty. I'm not sure whether
ball over
was
the
gone.
far side. Brighton now into the penalty area. And I thought on my initial viewing there that was winning a corner, but it's harmless out for a goal kick.
So this is where Brighton will be looking to exploit, getting it wide as early as they can when Man City have got bodies forward. And in the end, Ella Brazil just couldn't get the corner she wanted.
On that Ellen White penalty appeal, you thought?
It's difficult, yeah, it's difficult to say. I think the referee was in quite a good position, better position than we were, but it did look like a clash where there was enough contact for a penalty.
So no VAR in the women's professional game here in England, so you can review that yourself on the iPlayer. But for us here, that is that matter case closed. It will not be revisited. So Manchester City keep ball once again. And here is Greenwood. Stanway, ball over his shoulder, wasn't quite getting her bearings, but that's a good ball out wide from Rasso. Sorry, from White to Rasso, and the Australian does well to keep it in play. The defender backs off, just gives her a few yards. Bronze saw the run of Coombs, but couldn't quite thread it through. Manchester City really stretching the pitch, Lucy, both flanks.
Yeah, they're really good. When they do get it, you'll see Rasso go wide, Hemp go wide on the other side, and it just makes the pitch massive, creates those pockets of space for the likes of Stanway to move into.
Once again, Manchester City win it back high up the field. Rasso trying to weave her way through. She's working tirelessly to win it back. A good ball in from Bronze. Evades both White and Hemp.
Tell you what, Leticia did brilliant then. She just used her body to just nudge Hemp out of the way as the ball came across. Looked like it was going to be a free shot on goal for her.
Firm was talking about it in the build-up in terms of Lucy Bronze's assets both at both ends of the field. We saw a crossability there, Lucy.
Yeah, a good ball in, and like I say, you could just see what Leticia did then. Just nudged Hemp out of the way and just stopped her from having that free shot on goal.
So Brighton beginning to see more of the ball, but as many probably would have anticipated, it is the visitors dominating proceedings, but yet to break the deadlock. Coombs, ball in. It's a chance there for Brighton to try and release Danny Carter. It's going to be one of those afternoons you do feel for Danny Carter, Lucy, that she's going to be working off scraps.
Yeah, but I mean, she's experienced. She knows how to play this game. She knows how to play that 9 role. When a team have not got that much possession, it's sticking when it gets to her, and a good ball into her as well, which that particularly wasn't.
Manchester City with a dangerous ball there across the back line, and attempted crossfield ball from Bronze runs through harmlessly.
They're at quite an interesting battle there down that left-hand side for City. Leticia against Lauren Hemp, both up and coming, lots of potential young players. Hemp obviously playing for England and doing well.
Once again, Ellen White leading the defensive line in that central striker position, just chasing down every ball. She's not had the form in the domestic sense so far this campaign, Lucy, but we see him with an England shirt on, and just herself, she's just the ultra-professional, and she will give you absolutely everything.
Yeah, she will. I mean, she's a proper number 9. Ellen White, and I think she's had a few injuries, hasn't she? She's not always played in this City team, but they look like they're back on the ball to me for the opening minutes of this game.
Just the 3 WSL goals for Ellen White so far this campaign, but her last was last time out, way back mid-December, a late win at the 89th minute away at Birmingham. She's definitely seen an upturn in fortunes for Manchester City and their manager, Gareth Taylor. He did admit in the press conference in the build-up to this that they weren't taking Brighton at all lightly. He said you can't be at 80% and expect to win here. And so far, I think it's fair to say, Lucy, his side are treating Brighton with the due respect and really going to try and win this game.
Yeah, I think it's important for City and their confidence and kick-starting 2022 in a good fashion. They come here and they get a good win, and that's what Gareth Taylor will want from his team.
Carter there with the foul on Stokes. Again, City reluctant to go long. They want to play it out and really use this all-star array of internationals it is at their disposal out there. Kennedy strides forward. Nicely evades the press into Rasso. Good play here from Manchester City, very patient. Rasso has a run to her right. Stanway, good delivery. Oh, almost in the back of her own net there from Letitia, but excellent defensive duties once again from the Brighton youngster.
I tell you what, we know a lot about Letitia, and just seen there in the last sort of few minutes what she's all about in terms of defending. That could have actually gone anyway, couldn't it, as the ball came across and she stuck her leg out, but terrific defending from the youngster.
We're yet to see Brighton really offer any serious attacking threats so far. They haven't scored in over 6 hours of competitive action. I'm sure they'll want to leave that stat behind them in 2021. But it is a tough ask against Manchester City.
Yeah, they're going to find some sort of controlled possession, keep the ball, pass the ball, and get a little bit of confidence within this game when they've got possession of the ball. They've withstood the opening 30 minutes or so from Manchester City, who've been on top.
Connolly with the throw. Sends in the delivery. Looking towards the back post. They win the knockdown. They're in here. And appeals for a penalty, but the referee assistant has his flag off, so it will be offsides. City look to have got away with one there, Lucy.
Yeah, I was just thinking, I mean, Manchester City will consider themselves this season quite unlucky with the way things have gone for them, with injuries and incidents within games. We talked about Brighton staying in this game at the start of this second half, the first half, and not conceding, but this is it. You only need one sort of opportunity. And I think it might have been that ball in. That header there, it was a great header, but I think that was the offside.
Ellen White, ball in. She's in on goal, is she? No, just skates through to the goalkeeper. It was Kaylee Green there, wasn't it, Lucy? Just coming in on Taib and making the goalkeeper commit, essentially. She had to come out and try and clear her lines.
Yeah, and Taib has suffered in confidence, I think, throughout this season and made a couple of mistakes that have led to goals. So right to know that, but it's just sort of putting her under pressure, and they haven't really had an opportunity. That was the first time, really.
So Emily Heaslip's already had 2 penalty decisions to make so far this afternoon. An early chance for Ellen White, and let's have another look at the Brighton chance.
I mean, it's a great little header, and I think had it not been offside, there's a chance that the referee, the position that she was in, would have given a penalty, but it doesn't matter because I think that first header was the offside correct decision. But it gives Brighton that little bit of confidence now, Tom, that they can look at City and maybe exploit that defence, because they like to get forward. We've seen it today. They get bodies forward, which means they leave gaps.
So White at the other ends.
I think there might have been a touch on the ball. I don't think there was enough contact in terms of sending Ellen White down for a penalty, but I would have appealed for it, that's for definite.
So there is a gap in proceedings. as Whelan trudges off to the sidelines, clutching the back of her head. Out of shot, but she does look fit to resume, so we do anticipate Brighton to be back up to their full allocation shortly, but for the time being, they are a player down as Connolly takes the free kick. Checks back to her right. Good header clear by Kennedy. Plenty of distance on that, but neat control from Carter. And you talked about her experience and guile there, Lucy. Look at that for a pull down, and she unleashes the shot.
Yeah, terrific technique from Dan Carter. Opening 15 minutes or so, she's not really had that much to do, and as soon as the ball comes in, you just see the ability that she's got to bring the ball down. But the goal doesn't move. She knows exactly where that is, and just rising. Good effort.
Manchester City back on the offensive. Lucy Bronze. Last time we saw it in a Manchester City shirt was way back in March of last year. But she's been at the thick of things. So heads it back towards the Brighton goal. And once again, FIFA Best Player of 2020 is bringing Manchester City forward. Looking for Stanway, who goes down off the ball, looks at the referee, shakes her head. Connolly unable to control it. Stanway saw a chance there. She looks up, she saw the keeper struggling to get back in a goal there, Lucy.
Tell you what, Connolly did really well. She knows exactly the capability that Stanway's got. Long range shots, and she just threw herself. It's a brilliant defending tackle that was. Georgia Stanway, eyes lit up.
So it will be another Manchester City corner. Greenwood once again. And it was her delivery which was headed goalward by Hemp early doors. She drew an excellent save. Doesn't beat the first player, so try again for Greenwood. Nil-nil. Spots Stanway free on the edge of the box. Excellent delivery, and she brings it back out wide. Try again from Greenwood. Williams with the header. Stokes takes over things, and it's Rasso now who's switched flanks. Coombs thought about the shot, goes for it. Keeper had that well covered.
Yeah, they've had a lot of the ball, Manchester City, but I think when you're on top, you've got to score during those times, and because they haven't, I think Brighton are looking at this thinking, well, actually, we can defend well, and we've just got to use the opportunities that we get.
Brighton get play back underway. Flicked on by Brazil. Carter can't keep it in play. She does have a throw. Danielle Carter signed last summer. 13 years at Arsenal, where she pretty much won it all.
Yeah, she had a couple of really bad injuries. She did her ACL and did it again. So to come back from that, the resilience that is required, but she still wants to play, loves the game, and ideal club for her to be playing at, because when she's on form, she'll play every game.
Again, Brighton really struggling to make use of possession, but Carter's battling hard, the aforementioned, and Whelan wins back possession. Rasso closing down, but Brighton have worked that well. Here's Williams. Checks back inside to Cagman. This is what we want to see from Brighton, Lucy. Just a bit more composure when you're under pressure. Just saying, yeah, we can play alongside you guys.
This is better from them. They've built in confidence because they've not conceded early. They've withstood the pressure from City. They've just got to make sure they do it, make good decisions when they are on the ball.
The visitors have the ball back though. Greenwood looking for Hemp, who wins the aerial ball, continues a run, checks, deflection. Thankfully straight into the grasp of Megan Walsh.
She's got so many attributes, Lauren Hemp. She's tenacious, she's direct, but she also, talk about decision making, she goes that, but just the way that she turns outwards here, nods the ball to the left so that she opens up the space for her to have a shot.
Brazil with a flick on, looking for Carter, and again, we are seeing Brighton's confidence grow. It's certainly a rocky opening quarter of an hour or so, but in the last 5 minutes or so, Hope Powell will be impressed with what she's seen from her side.
Yeah, she'll be happy that her team have kept it at 0-0 and then have started to just get a little bit more of a foothold in the game. As far as City are concerned, you know, they don't want this game going the way of quite a lot of games this season where they've sort of lost control of games, made mistakes and conceded goals.
And with the scoreline at 0-0, we saw that early chance for Danielle Carter. That's all it takes to change the complexion on this game. Whelan with the flick on, helped on by Brazil. Manchester City still not cleared the lines, and good dribbling ability there from Stanway. Rasso once again, puff of the cheeks there as she strides forwards. Bronze has continued her run, but just too much heat on the pass, but she's kept it alive. Dangerous defending there by Williams. Coombs trying to pick out Stanway. Lovely neat control there from Carter, spin and move, and Brighton are away. She's looking for support. Cagman's trying to keep pace, but she's kept hold of the ball. Appeals to the referee, the play continues. More fight from Brighton we're seeing here, Lucy.
Yeah, I think that's what Hope Powell's demanding from the sideline. They were a little bit passive in the opening minutes of this game and allowed Manchester City to go where they wanted, pass it and keep possession and really put them under pressure, but they've done so now, and it's more of a competition.
Williams, who for some inexplicable reason decided to let Lucy Bronze cross that ball moments ago. Thankfully for her, didn't find a Manchester City shirt, but we do sense a goal is coming here in the Women's Super League. Koivisto, first time. Is it Brighton free kick?
And it's about using these little free kicks now for Brighton to keep possession, get themselves in the final third and try and craft some sort of chance. And it's all about getting yourself back into the game. After losing a little bit of control over it at the start, but not conceding, so important.
Green is back to her feet, but certainly for Lucy Bronze, I know she was match ready in December before that COVID cancellation, but no signs of rustiness from the Manchester City and Lioness defender. Defending is the name of the game for the visitors now, as Connolly with the set piece. Plenty of height on it. Williams challenging. Carter trying to create space. Wins a corner.
I can't help but think that set pieces are going to be quite an important part of the way that Brighton approach this game. And we've got the likes of Tori Williams. I think she won the first header, and then Dan Carter with the composure that she's got, just trying to create a little bit of space for herself for a shot, but got the corner.
We are beginning to see, aren't we, Lisa, how much of a big player for Danny Carter is for Brighton, because essentially a real bit of quality in and around the 18-yard box. She's the player to provide it.
Yeah, just composure and calmness. You know, when she gets the ball, she knows exactly what she wants to do with it. Brighton will need that if they're going to get anything from this game.
Cagman with the corner. It's Connolly short as an option, who's not happy with how close Rasso is. Leaves a teammate to it. Kennedy, once again, wins the ball, trying to challenge with Hemp there. Miscommunication from Manchester City. Another Brighton throw. Visto, Finn, representing a national side, all being well at this summer's Euros. Not quite able to correlate there with Carter. Bronze looking for White. Williams is close to it, and again trying to feed Carter. And up and under from Kennedy. Brighton back in possession. Space for Whelan, just too much on it.
Yeah, it's the right idea, just trying to work the ball with those quick passes and work it wide. You know, the way that Lucy Bronze likes to play, she'll get forward. So those sort of areas are the ones to try and exploit when Brighton do get the ball.
Stanley plays it straight to Carter, appeals for handball, play continues, looks for the cross. Comfortable save for Taib.
She's actually started this game really well, Georgia Stanway. Manchester City, she's such a good utility player, and that is a compliment in terms of where she plays. She's played full-back this season, she could play up front, she's playing in midfield today, and it just covers any sort of problem positions that Manchester City have.
But it was an opening quarter of an hour dominated by Manchester City, but Brighton are beginning to find their feet in this game. Defending is needed at the moment. Stanway looking to try and thread through Hemp. Vista has to watch it all the way. She comes away with the ball. Brighton playing out from the back. Good ball retention as Whelan tries to play the dummy. A Manchester City throw. Gareth Taylor, undoubtedly the most difficult time in his tenure.
Yeah, it's lonely in that technical area as a manager when your team has not been getting the results, but he will see this game as a turning point. That yes, they won a couple of games before Christmas, and I think that's so important for getting some momentum.
Coombs, neat chest control. Hemp looking for White, back to goal. She was already lining up the acrobatic attempt there. And here's Brazil. Driving Brighton forward. She's got the better of Walsh there. Looking for Carter. Plays it into that central striker. Working hard to try and win it back, but this is what Manchester City can do. Come forward in a split second. Stanway to Hemp. She's going to have to work a little bit more than she probably would have wanted to keep that in play. Continues the attack for the visitors. Bronze. Patient build-up. Acknowledges that Walsh was on infield. Now decides to find a Manchester City and England teammate. Here's Stokes. Definitely from the Brighton perspective, they're just winning a lot more second balls, aren't they, Lucy?
Well, that's all about attitude and the intensity of the play. They started off quite passive. I see Steph Horton, two really experienced players, Steph Horton and Jill Scott, watching from the substitute bench. Both want to see some minutes, I'm sure, today.
Still a long way to go in this game, but Gareth Taylor does have a very impressive bench. Still not yet a full bench for Manchester City. And a yellow card there, first of the game for Danielle Carter.
Yeah, it's an interesting challenge, this, and it was really quite late, really, from Dan Carter. She sort of smiled wryly at the referee, but I don't think you can have any complaints about that.
Not dangerous, but late, and studs were raised. First booking of the new calendar year in the Women's Super League goes to Brighton's Danielle Carter. Kennedy. Looking for teammates to offer and show for the ball. Stanway back to goal, and Visto just too eager there.
Yeah, sorry, Tom. It's actually a better defensive shape from Brighton. They're getting, when they do lose possession, they're getting into a good shape, and it's just about making good decisions off the ball.
Approaching half an hour played. Still goalless here. Manchester City certainly with the more clearer cut opportunities. But Brighton are beginning to show their offensive threats. Coombs with the half volley, but the referee's assistant flag is already up for offside.
Yeah, Brighton a couple of times have gone on a quicker break, haven't they? Ella Brazil a couple of minutes ago did really well, but when you do that against a team like City, you've got to be really well aware of the what-ifs. What if we lose it and we're out of shape?
Kaylee Green seems to be struggling here. It's the second time this afternoon that she's gone down. Just flexing that right calf. It's her first start in the WSL since October. You agree with both managers, Lucy, that obviously in the build-up the chance for the break was just a good reset and refresh, and for players who do have niggles, just to really just take their time with building back up into full, intense match play.
Yeah, it's invaluable, and I think for Brighton, because they didn't get the results they wanted just before Christmas, it just helps them. And City probably welcomed the break, but they were doing all right before Christmas. They finally got themselves on an even keel, and a really disappointing season so far for City. You expect them to be up there, and they haven't been, and these players have then had to deal with that, and it's something that they've probably, a position they've never really found themselves in, and you've just got to play through it. When you know, they had the injuries, a lot of injuries, players late back from the Olympics, then injuries, and then they started making mistakes, losing games, your confidence goes down, and you find yourself in a situation, an international player, which you haven't probably found at club level before, and you've got to find solutions to it.
Powell just checking in there with Kayleigh Green just to see that she's fit to continue. The Welsh international does look to be okay. Play will resume with the Brighton goalkeeper, who's been the busier, but let's see, a clear penalty shout for Brighton, but it was immaterial because of an offside earlier in the play. Manchester City win the ball high up. Rasso just so light of foot to evade the challenges. Visto slips with the clearance, and Coombs battling hard to keep it in Manchester City possession.
That's what they do so well, City. They ring the opposition's penalty area, so when the ball comes out, they're the first ones on it.
White. Neat turn there by Cagman, evades Bronze. Not sure she knew much about that return ball there, as Visto acknowledges, and it'll be a Manchester City throw.
You see there that it's so difficult for Brighton to get out because Lucy Bronze has pushed on to the limit of her position at right back, and she's the first to pick it up when they give it away.
Whelan draws the biggest cheer of the afternoon for that slide challenge on Bronze. But once again, as I say that, Brighton do win it back, but keeping hold of it is proving awfully difficult, and there's space over that left-hand side for Manchester City. Through Stokes. Hemp, look at that speed to move away with the first step. Space, Stanway. Should she have done better there, Lucy?
I tell you what, that's nearly an absolutely typical Manchester City goal, that when Lauren Hemp gets it, first thing she thinks is, right, I'm going to engage, I'm going to go forward and direct. And she sees a mate, passes it, and you usually see better from Stanway. She can't whip a ball in from there.
Stanway in good scoring form, 2 in her last 2 WSL matches, which of course do feel like a lifetime ago, no doubt for players and spectators, but that's a good ball over the top, which finds Brazil. She's tracked by Stokes. Excellent defending there from the Manchester City fullback.
I tell you, that's the ball though, Tom, just because they were playing quite high then, that City defence, and I think a ball in there, I think it was Aidan Whelan, ball over the top into Ellie Brazil's path.
Back to Taib. Walsh just bypasses 3 Brighton shirts there, and look at the space for Rasso. Control off the shoulder there, appeals on field and from the Brighton home fans for handball. But play continues. Stanway just didn't look up quick enough to see that White had checked her run, and here come Brighton. No, they don't. Crunching challenge there from Visto, but it's played it straight into the path of Manchester City. Hemp. Stanway. Lots of Brighton shirts back on defensive duties. Rasso goes for the chip. Thankfully for Brighton on the roof of Megan Walsh's net.
Yeah, they're getting the most joy, Manchester City, when they're moving the ball quickly, when Brighton are out of shape and the holes appear. As soon as they take time and take that extra pass, it just allows Brighton to get back in, and it makes it so much more difficult to then get a clean shot on goal.
I think the intention was to cross there from Rasso. I'm sure she wouldn't have been saying that if it would have nestled in the back of the Brighton net, but we are still awaiting the opening goal in the Women's Super League of 2022. Green looking to press Bronze. It's a goalkeeper who just takes that touch just to steady herself, buy some time, finds Walsh. Use the space well, Manchester City. Here comes Greenwood. Again, tries to go over the top for Hemp. And she is the obvious outlet, isn't she? Is question, sorry, both flanks, but in particular Hemp, she's shown that she's right at it in 2022.
Yeah, quite a lot of the time that Hemp's been on City's get out of jail free card, because has been on it all season. When the team struggled, she's played well, and I think that looking for her is because they mix it up. City, they'll pass it, they'll draw you onto them, and then they'll just knock that longer ball in behind. And Hemp's pace and ability just creates loads of opportunities for this City team.
Manchester City's top scorer in the WSL this season with 4 goals. Manchester City won a foul there, but play continues. Brazil has to be patient and wait for attackers to get into the 18-yard box. It's a good delivery! And a first-time attempt there from Cagman had the keeper scrambling.
Tell you what, for all the dominance that City have had in this first half, if you can just be good in front of goal once, and Brighton City, what a great little ball that is, and a clever knock in behind from Cagman. It just showed that again will give Brighton a bit of confidence. It was always spinning away, wasn't it? That's a chance.
Lovely technique there from the Dutch international. And Brighton will be growing in confidence. Interesting team talks for both managers as Green commits the foul there on Bronze. Good. Brief talking to there from the referee, Emily Heaslip. And we're back with Manchester City looking to come forward. Stokes. Finds Coombs. And the wing mirrors on there, just checking where the Brighton defender was. Lots of space here for Kennedy. Rasso on the move. Just doesn't find it. Visto does well, but Rasso stayed on the deck. And Brazil, who continues to be that wide right outlet, acknowledges the pass. Thankfully, the Australian, from a Manchester City perspective, is back on her feet. She was struggling with a groin issue, we understand, over the festive periods. This could be her last appearance in a Manchester City shirt before she travels to join up with the national side for the Asia Cup, which gets underway later this month. Looking to go out on a high, no doubt. Manchester City once again win the ball back in the Brighton half. Space for Hemp. Neat shin control. Just look at the speed of movement across the grass. He daren't touch it. Here's Rasso. Stanway. Chance for a cross. Well closed down there by Brazil, it was this time.
You can see how everybody's excited about Lauren Hemp and how relieved I would suspect Man City are that she signed an extra couple of years on her deal. She's so effective, so direct. It's good play in the end by Stanway, who gets herself up beyond but defends. Brighton knew they'd have to defend well today.
There's a Brighton player down, so we'll have a break in proceedings. It's Letitia on the deck. Played every minute of WSL action so far this season. The teenager, 19 years of age. And this will be a concern.
Yeah, it will, because defensively has been needed and will be needed this afternoon, dealing with the likes of Hemp, and if they swap over Rasso. Letitia has become a young player who is incredibly important to this Brighton team.
See the grimace there on her face. Reminder, viewers, next week, table toppers Arsenal. They're at home to Reading. A game live here for you on BBC One. Of course, this is the first of the 3 WSL games taking place today. Arsenal are back in action today. 2 p.m. kickoff against Birmingham. Tissier just explaining there to the medical staff as regards to how the impact came about, but it's a good sign that she's on her feet, Lucy, and she's able to get to the touchline.
Yeah, I've noticed a couple of times Lauren Hemp's been really direct, but she's direct and she's come inside and she's not really run straight at Laetitia because she's quite a formidable defender to play against.
Greenwood with another Manchester City corner. Looks good. Williams, excellent header. Stanway on the volley. Bounces off the roof and into the car park.
It's a few she's had now, Stanway, but the thing about her is she'll just keep going. She'll keep going until she's scored. Whether it's left or right foot, and just positions herself on the edge of the area, waiting for the ball to come down. It's a difficult one, it's a difficult skill there, particularly with her left foot.
Cagman there just clutching her nose. So further medical treatment for the Brighton sides. Just a quick word, Lucy, on Ellen White. I've made this mistake before, that for all her work, she's yet to have a clear sight of goal, but with a striker of her calibre, that's all it takes.
Yeah, she only needs one. And the thing is, though, she stays tuned into every single game. So even if you think that she's sort of on the periphery of the game, it only needs to be a sniff of a chance and she's on the end of it. And I think that's so important. She plays, obviously, on her own in the 9. She relies on the likes of Coombs and Stanway to support her through that middle, and then obviously a wide place to put the ball. But she works in the 6-yard, the width of the 6-yard box. That's where she comes alive, and obviously she will commit to build up play and you know, get the ball into feet. But she's such a valuable player for this City team.
Manchester City making constructive use of this break and play. Gareth Taylor with the tablet out there, just maybe replaying or re-showing, or just essentially just relaying whatever instructions he needs, particularly and going forward, you would feel. And Cagman, who's had the tissue in the nostrils, but it doesn't seem to have subsided the bleeding, so a decision will need to be made because they're going to have a lot of added on time here in the first half. She's a key player, Lucy, and they won't want to lose her.
No, they won't. She's playing an important role, actually, because she sits on Kira Walsh, because Kira Walsh is, again, an important player for building up play for Manchester City, just in that central midfield, deep midfield area, and Cagman just making sure she just stands in that area and allow her to dictate play, as she has done and we've seen over the years.
Kennedy. Back with Greenwoods. Rasso. Oh, just miscued the control, but the blushes are saved by the offside flag, and it is that switching flanks ball over the top that's brought a lot of joy for Manchester City, Lucy.
Yeah, like I say, that they mix up play really well, and when they see that run, they'll release the pass. But I think Rasso had just gone too early, hadn't she?
The last time Brighton were live with us here on the BBC, it was a home against the Manchester club, Manchester United. They played awfully well in that first half, but it eventually peter out. Staying the distance with these top sides is the sort of consistency they need if they want to grow as a club and seriously challenge for European football. And as we said at the top of the show, a win for them would see them just 2 points adrift of those Champions League qualification places. Brazil trying to flick it on. Brighton are back up to their full 11 players. Cagman's rejoin the action as we approach half-time, but we do anticipate there will be quite a bit to add on here at the People's Pension Stadium. 0-0. Lovely footwork from Walsh. Ball over the top. Hemp. Just a miscue there. Brazil flicks on to Carter. Space here. Was able to find Green. Brighton coming forward in numbers. You can hear Hope Powell barking instructions from a technical area. Cuevisto bypasses Stanway, who doesn't give up on the task and just managed to deflect it. slight breathing space for Manchester City, but Brazil sends the ball straight back in. Whelan unable to control, and here comes Coombs.
It's an important challenge, that. Sorry, important challenge for Letizia, and this is the problems that Brighton may have, is when they do get bodies up and they get a bit of joy and encouragement going forward, that they have to think about, if Man City win it back, then they are going to attack at speed, and you see Lauren Hemp, the first person they look for when they win the ball back.
So there will be a minimum of 6 additional minutes here in the first half. I just love that duel, 2 rising stars in the English game. Lauren Hemp, an established lioness, and lots of positive talk about the future for Maya Letizia.
Yeah, I think defensively she's so solid, Letizia, and she'll look to her opposite number at the other side, Lucy Bronze, and how she likes to get forward, and maybe as she develops as a player she'll add that to her game, because she's got that athletic ability, the pace to get herself forward and be a threat in offensive positions.
Here come Manchester City. White. Walsh, just lovely pivot, 180 turn to create that space, to unleash the pass. And here's Rasso, heavy touch from the Australian, gets away with it, does she? She wanted a foul, but she'll settle for a corner.
Yeah, Razzo's playing right at the limit of her position on this right-hand side, as wide as possible, either to get the ball or to create space inside for Georgia Stanway, but she's been caught offside a couple of times, but that was a good and well-timed run from Rasso. Good defending as well in the end by Koivisto.
Georgia Stanway back on corner duties. It's fair to say we weren't impressed with the first attempt, the opening corner of the game. But we'll forgive it and see what she can do with this one. Looking for Hemp. Coombs to the back post. White challenging. And it's another Manchester City corner. Important time for Brighton. It'd be devastating to concede an added time.
Yeah, they started off the half defending a series of corners, and they've got to make sure that all the work that they've put into this first half pays dividends by going in 0-0.
Greenwood's delivery. Good header clear from Green. Sent back in by Coombs. Still can't clear the lines, Brighton. There's a chance. Carter using her experience. Great play there. Just unable to connect with Letizia, who's the right back, who's on the opposite side of the field on the halfway line. Incredible athleticism from the Brighton youngster. Visto just been told she's got a few more yards to get further down the field. They've used that well there, Brighton. Looking for Carter. It's not on. It's the Cagman. Back to the midfielder. Neat, intricate play from Hope Powell's side. Working the space. Letizia. Closed down by Hemp.
And that's the attacking part I was talking about earlier. Letizia getting in those sort of positions and probably releasing that cross a little bit earlier.
Fair to say she's been everywhere so far. The Brighton defender. And she's going for the long throw here. Looking for Williams off the head of her blonde curls. Sent back in. And that's comfortable for Taib.
She's so effective in both boxes, Tori Williams, and nearly creating an opportunity for her team right at the end of this first half.
Stokes. White's got a hand raised. She wants that ball direct down the middle. Stokes is checking back, keeping possession. And it's Greenwood who has to pump it clear. And here is White. Trying to sprint through. That's just summed up her half so far, Lucy. She's just not quite been able to get that quality of delivery to give her a goal-scoring opportunity.
Yeah, she just needs better ball into her. Your centre forward is probably only as good as the the service in. You could tell I was a centre forward. The service in, she has to be good.
Well, here's Rasso. But Walsh more than alert off a line. 4 clean sheets so far in the domestic campaign for Megan Walsh. Recent Republic of Ireland international. She's been by far the busier keeper so far this afternoon. But it is still 0-0. Free kick for Manchester City. We've gone past the minimum of 6 to be added on, so it's all in the hands now of Emily Heaslip, our referee today, with regards to how much is to be added on. And that is it. Well, we're yet to see a goal so far in 2022 in the Women's Super League. But Lucy Ward, what do you make of that opening 45 minutes?
Yeah, I think Manchester City probably controlled the possession and the chances, but they didn't score when they were on top, and Brighton just grew into the first half, and probably going to the second half thinking we could probably nick a goal here, so all to play for.
Well, half-time, Brighton 0, Manchester City 0.
Yeah, thanks to Lucy and Tom there. No goals in the opening 45 minutes between Brighton and Manchester City, but plenty of chances. Manchester City dominating possession with over 60%, but they just couldn't make it count. I've been watching this one in the company of the former Brighton defender, Fern Whelan. And Fern, you said before the game, Brighton were going to relish this. They've certainly stood up to everything that Manchester City have thrown at them so far, haven't they?
Definitely, and I think as the game's gone on, they've grown in confidence, they've grown more and more to the game, and we're seeing more chances from Brighton as well, more pressure, more set pieces from them. So I think they'll be really positive about the first half and hopefully looking for them nick a goal in the second half.
Let's take a look at some of the chances you talk about. Let's start though with one of Manchester City's chances, which was almost, there was a penalty shout, wasn't there? I'm not going to say almost, because let's look back on it. This was early in the game. Ellen White with the penalty shout here. What did you make? Was this a foul for you?
I think it's really difficult to see, if I'm honest. I think there's a couple of different angles you can see. I think Kaylee Green nicks the ball before she actually takes Ellen White. So for me, I'd say it wasn't a penalty, and obviously agree with the referee on that one.
We won't start the debate about whether we should have VAR in the WSL. The debate that we always have, but potentially the right decision for you there then. In terms of the chances that Manchester City created, they were good, but not as good as the one that Brighton created late on in that second half. That one in the 37th minute from Cagnan. That had you up off your seat. You thought that one might be in, didn't you?
I did. I thought it was just going to creep in at the back post. Brighton had been really positive and really on the front foot towards the second half and towards the back end of the second half, and actually as this delivery's come in, Cagman does really well to get in front of a defender, and it just peels away from goal instead of actually going into the net where she would have liked it to have gone. But really positive from Brighton towards the second half, and I think that's what Cagman does so well. She gets herself in areas high up the pitch and she really bolsters Brighton's attack.
It goes back to what you were saying before the game, though, doesn't it? The fact that Brighton won't be scared of the opposition, and now they've got their own threat on the counter-attack. So as well as soaking up possession, they can have chances like that.
Yeah, they can soak up possession, they can keep clean sheets, which we've seen, and they can now build from the back. So, you know, I think there's been a couple of times where they've gone from left to right, they've kept some really good possession, and actually they're getting the early crosses in now and putting City on the back foot towards the end of the second half. So it's been positive from them as well as it has from City.
As for Manchester City, we talked about them having players back, having Lucy Bronze back. We saw glimpses of what she can do with some of the balls that she put into the box. But have you been disappointed with them in the opening half?
I haven't been disappointed. No, I think I think they probably should have scored. I think with the chances they've created, Georgia Stanway's had some really good chances on the edge of the box. I think I've been really impressed with Lauren Hemp again. She's been really direct for them again, really driving them forward. She just not so long ago went on a really mazy run, took on quite a few players, and again is providing those chances. I think the only disappointment for them is that they haven't put the ball in the back of the net, and it could be costly for them towards the second half if Brighton obviously get a chance in front of goal. So I think Lucy's done well in terms of getting forward. Sometimes possession maybe they'd like to be a little bit more cuter and a little bit finer on that, but they are winning the ball higher up the pitch, and that's why Lucy is on the pitch, because she breaks it down higher up for them.
I was going to say, have you noticed a difference? Obviously Kira Walsh back in the starting 11 today as well. Have you noticed a difference in City? I know they've been growing into games recently, having won those back-to-back games in December, but is there a notable improvement in them today?
Yeah, I think from the kick-off, really, I think you can see they're confident in the back line. They're trying to keep the ball. They're building from the back. You know, they're trying to be as direct as they possibly can. But I think sometimes when they've actually kept the ball, switched the play and built up possession, they actually look a lot more cuter and a lot more finer. So they'll just want to refine in and around shots in and around the edge of the box. And I think times when they could have actually taken the shot on, they've chose to pass, and that's allowed Brighton to then get into their back line. So they want to take shots earlier and really put Megan Walsh and really challenge her.
Sometimes you do see those dull 0-0s, don't you? But it doesn't feel like this has been a dull 0-0 so far. Plenty of chance in this game, but still no breakthrough here. But we're going to have a slight change of gear now to hear from the former Team GB hockey player and Olympic gold medalist Helen Richardson-Walsh. After hanging up her hockey sticks, she switched careers to join WSL side Tottenham, working as a sports psychologist. Here she is speaking with Joe Curry.
Hi Joe.
Hi Helen, how are you?
Good, thank you. Welcome to Spurs.
So this is where you work?
Yes.
Amazing. Helen, I think many people will remember you as a very successful international hockey player. How did you end up at Tottenham?
Well, Tottenham is a club close to my heart. I'm actually a supporter of Spurs. After finishing playing hockey, I qualified as a psychologist and started to think about, like, you know, what I might want to do with that qualification, and working within a sports team kind of seemed like a good fit. And so I kind of approached Spurs, and they were, you know, open to the idea, and it kind of went from there, really.
So come on then, what exactly is a performance psychologist? What do you do day to day?
A psychologist is, I guess, job is to try and get the most out of everybody. We are, as human beings, capable of much more than we think we are, and your mind controls everything. So it's very, very important to think about how you can get the most from what's going on inside your head.
When you were an athlete yourself, you experienced the highest of the highs, the Olympic gold medal, but also some lows along the way as well. How do you use your own personal experiences working with the footballers now?
I think my own experience comes into play all the time. As an athlete, injury and selection are pretty much guaranteed. You know, you have to go through selection, and injury is unfortunately very, very common. And for me, I struggled with my mental health through some of those difficulties, and that's a really key part of where I see my role here. For me, performance includes well-being. If people are well, mentally, physically, you know, in every sense, then they will perform at their best.
Hello and welcome to the Women's Football Show.
There's now more women's football on TV than ever before. It's so much more accessible, it's visible, but with that comes expectancy and pressure. Is that something you've had to work with the players on?
Who was it? Billie Jean King said pressure is a privilege. And she's absolutely right. You know, these players, they want to play in the big arenas with massive crowds, but with that obviously comes that pressure. And there are some players who take to that arena more naturally than others, but it doesn't mean that if it's not natural to you, then you can't learn to thrive in that environment, and that's the role of the psychologist to try and help that.
You retired from international hockey after the Rio Olympics. How important was it for you to then find a role that not only paid the bills, but something that you were really passionate about as well?
You know, for me, I gave my life to hockey, and so when that stopped, I knew I needed something that was going to try and replace that. Yeah, having that purpose was incredibly important, and being amongst a team again, you know, particularly a sporting team that I kind of feel all the same emotions when I'm watching a game, and
the heart rate.
Although I can't do anything about it, I'm not on the pitch, so I can't do anything about it. But yeah, it's I think that's the thing that all athletes, retired athletes, try and find.
Spurs women had a wonderful start to the season. You went 4 games unbeaten. Has there been a particular moment that's really stood out to you so far?
Probably that win against Man City.
And it's in!
Because that was historic. You know, the first time we've beaten them in the league.
Manchester City, their unbeaten home record comes to an end.
I think it just helped to reinforce what Rhiannon Skinner, the manager, has been trying to integrate into the team along with all the staff, and it just came at the perfect time. And it was just like, okay, this, you know, we're going somewhere now, and that's, you know, that's why it's so exciting, because I think Spurs women are at the start of, or midway through, a journey where hopefully we will see them grow and develop over the years.
Yeah, really interesting to hear from Helen Richardson-Walsh there, talking about her life post her career as a hockey player. And I know you've obviously had similar conversations, similar thoughts in recent times, Fern, about what you were going to do post-football. At what point did it come into your mind, oh, I need to plan for my second career almost now?
Really early on, actually. Yeah, well, when I was playing for Everton, it wasn't like my full-time job.
Yeah.
So it was always drilled into us to have education as well. And I think, you know, it's stood me in really good stead. It's really important. And I think as the game professionalises, I think that message should still be there for the women's players of today, that actually you still need something to fall back on. We're not at the stage where we're in the Premier League and we're getting millions and millions of pounds. So it's still really important. You know, you could get an injury, could be career ending. It's just really important, you know, that the people, not just players. So actually outside of football, what are you passionate about? You know, what are the things that you want to carry on with when you stop playing? And, you know, they said it in the VT there, finding that purpose is something that as footballers, when you stop playing, you know, you can struggle with. And I think for me, I'm still trying to find that and find that buzz from something that's not being on the pitch. So it's really important, yeah.
You talked there about trying to find the buzz. We had a joke during the first half when I talked about your job, and we discussed you've actually got so many jobs, as well as being a pundit here with us. You're a mum as well, and you've also got a child play therapy business as well, is that right?
That's Aileen, that's my partner, yeah,
okay,
but she does child psychology as well, so she does play therapy. And I was studied as a physiotherapist, so I'm qualified 10 years in that, but I'm currently working for the PFA and doing all this. So yeah, still trying to find the buzz. But found it, I think, yeah.
Yeah, wow. So you are very busy. Pleasure to have your company, Sam. Surprised you found time to be with us, but it's been brilliant to have you with us so far. Well, it's been a brilliant weekend of football on the BBC, hasn't it? Yesterday it was all about the FA Cup third round, and the good news is there's even more to come on BBC One tomorrow night.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's quite magnificent. Oh, that is brilliant! Celebrate the 150th anniversary of the FA Cup live on the BBC. It's two! Manchester United beat Aston Villa in the third round, tomorrow 7:30 on BBC One and iPlayer.
Yeah, Manchester United against Aston Villa is on Monday, but before that at 2 p.m. today, you can head over to BBC Sounds for 5 live commentary of the FA Cup third round tie between Tottenham and Morecambe. You can watch highlights of all the weekend's FA Cup third round fixtures on Match of the Day on BBC One at 10:30 p.m. tonight. There's also highlights from the Women's Super League on the Women's Football Show tonight at 11:35 p.m. on BBC One. And the African Cup of Nations gets underway today too. But Tuesday sees Mo Salah in action for Egypt. They take on Nigeria in their opening group game. That is on the BBC iPlayer at 3:50 p.m. So confirmation then of the weekend's WSL fixtures, which has seen 3 games postponed. Friday evening's match between Chelsea and Tottenham was called off with COVID cases and injury affecting Emma Hayes' side. Yesterday's match between Aston Villa and Everton was postponed with a number of positive cases at Everton. There's been an outbreak of cases at West Ham too, meaning their game against Manchester United will be played at a later date. So of the 3 remaining games, it's currently goalless at half-time between Brighton and Manchester City, as we've just been seeing here. There are 2 o'clock kickoffs with Birmingham facing the league leaders Arsenal and Reading against Leicester City. So there is still plenty for us to talk about, and I'm pleased to say I'm joined now by the Daily Mail's women's football correspondent, Catherine Batty. Catherine, thanks for joining us on this very cold day. A good first half there, but let's talk about the WSL as a whole. It's great to be back in action now. Did the winter break come at the right time for you, do you think?
Yeah, I think, you know, the clubs, obviously, they have a hectic schedule, needed that little bit of rest and recovery, especially a lot of clubs picking up COVID cases as well. I think it was a good time to reset, lets the managers get a few players back fit as well, and yeah, obviously raring to go for the rest of the season.
Has been disappointing seeing the postponements, but it's something that it feels like in society and in life in general, we've kind of got to get used to. What did you make of Jonas Eidevall's comments this week about wanting a bit more transparency?
Yeah, they were interesting, weren't they? Because obviously I think he was quite annoyed that Arsenal's game with Brighton was postponed before the Christmas break. They were ready to play, they didn't have any cases, but of course Brighton had players isolating and weren't able to fulfil the fixture. And of course his team are still in quite a lot of competitions, they're still in the Champions League, and what he won't want is a big backlog of fixtures fixtures at an important time for the season, especially when they're trying to hold off Chelsea for the league as well.
Yeah, it's getting exciting at the top there, isn't it? It is January as well, so as well as the return of the WSL, the transfer window is open. We know a few clubs are looking at players. We've already seen Brighton sign a couple of players. Any rumours, any developments you can tell us about?
Well, I think the big one that most people are talking about is, of course, Stina Blackstenius, who has been linked with Manchester United for a long time, but we think Arsenal might have stolen a march on them. A very good player, quality forward. I think she scored 17 goals in the Swedish league last season, scored 5 for Sweden in the Olympics as well. So, and she's only 25, so you can see why there's interest in her. But Manchester United will be disappointed if they miss out on her, because they've tracked her for a long time. But you know, whether she ends up in London or Manchester, she'll be a great addition to the WSL.
Yeah, she will indeed. We're getting some brilliant players in WSL now. Catherine, I'll let you get back up to the press box. Thank you so much for your time now. As you can see, the players coming back out onto the pitch very shortly. I think, yeah, the warm-ups at half-time and the players are out there now as well. So I have some good news. None of the past 20 WSL matches have ended level between these two teams. So you would expect the breakthrough in the second half. Fern, what are you expecting in this second 45? More of the same from Brighton?
I think more of the same from Brighton. I think they'll be looking to obviously capitalise on any kind of set pieces. I think if they come in front of City's goal, they'll be really hoping that they can actually put the ball in the back of the net. But I'm expecting probably from City them to come out a little bit more fighting, probably a few changes maybe early on in the second half. We might actually get to see Steph Houghton as well, which I think will be positive
Not
for them.
got a bad bench, have they?
It's not a bad bench. It's better than the last one, let's say that. But no, I think, you know, an exciting second half ahead and hopefully some goals, as you say, yeah.
Well, it is time to hand you back to your commentary team. I think there's news of a change for Brighton as well. The former Leeds United forward Lucy Ward is alongside Tom Gale.
Thank you, Kelly. Yes, just as we were seeing there on screen, Danielle Baumann is the only change in this second half for the home side. She replaced Kirkdyke in the defence for Brighton. And it is the hosts who will look to get us underway in this second half. Who would have had the more sterner team talk at half-time for you, Lucy?
Probably neither, really, to be honest, because City, it's just keep going and have a little bit more quality and clinical in front of goal. And I think Hope Powell will be happy with how her team developed through the first half, but just be better in possession and use those set pieces more positively, because I think that's probably their route through to goal.
Early signs are that Brighton are maybe switching to a back three with Letitia and Koyavista playing as wing backs in this second half, which certainly indicates that this is a game they feel they can get something out of, Lucy.
Yeah, I mean, I would suspect that they've thought that throughout the lead up to this game, because, you know, Man City's struggles this season, you know, you've got to play against them and be as positive as you can. And Brighton are probably having the better season up to this point, so there's no need for them to think that they're the underdogs coming into it.
Walsh, clearance met by Greenwoods. First chance for Manchester City to impose themselves on this game in the second half. Brighton with such a strong start to the WSL, which seated out before Christmas, and complete contrast to Manchester City, who started appallingly, their worst ever start to a top-flight campaign, but have picked up certainly in December. Back-to-back wins for the first time this season to close out the calendar year. They're finding Brighton to be more than a match so far here at the People's Pension Stadium.
I just wonder whether Kirkdyke had an injury, because Danny Bowman's come in and just taken up her slot.
City win the ball back. Greenwood immediately looking for Hemp, who's peeled away from Letitia. Double team there, trying to play in Stanway. City have possession back through Demi Stokes. Manchester City players always so receptive to receiving the ball in tight areas, and it really helps, doesn't it, get you further up the field, Lucy?
Yeah, it does. They play quite a high line. They squash it, and they look for the space in behind if they can. And Brighton are trying to deny space in there.
What Greenwood's done, and Letitia's header sees White come in and challenge with Baumann there, and it ends up in the Brighton keeper's hands. Baumann taking a mighty knock there, but that predator, Ellen White, sniffing out the opportunity.
Yeah, she did really well there. At any moment, she just got a touch to it before Ellen White came in. Dealt well, a really experienced player. Played for a number of clubs.
Carter just trying to bring down the goalkeeper's clearance. And the goalkeeper is retreating because here comes Hempt, looking to play it into Ellen White. But before it is Tori Williams, who finds the back of her own net. There we have it, the first goal of the calendar year, scored by Brighton, but at the wrong end. Brighton 0, Manchester City 1.
I mean, this is all about the ball, isn't it? Ball into the box, and you know as a defender that if you just get that touch wrong, then it could end up in the back of your net. But this is all about Lauren Hemp, as it has been down this left-hand side for a lot. And if she puts a good enough ball in, then she just causes havoc in there. Because I tell you what, Tori Williams doesn't touch that, then Ellen White's onto it. It's just she just didn't want the touch to be there. And that's what happens. I think sometimes, see again a bit before, whether there was a foul on Bowman there.
It is a defender being caught in two minds, that corridor of uncertainty. Lauren Hemp, one of the standout WSL players, the most creative WSL player in the first half of the season. And she's got Manchester City up and running here, away at Brighton.
And it just shows you, as a winger, if you put the ball in the right areas, it doesn't have to be your teammate that puts pressure on the opposition's goal, and it just shows there. But Tori Williams is a really experienced defender, and she'll be kicking herself she didn't get that right, but she had to get something on it to stop Ellen White putting it in the back of the net.
Brighton haven't come from behind to win since February 2021. That was away at Chelsea, so it proves that Hope Pyle's side have it in their locker. But this is a tall ask, as Hemp once again has the pace to beat, and look at the finish. Wow, what a couple of minutes there from Lauren Hemp. Provide it for the opening goal, and a deft chip to double City's advantage. Brighton 0, Manchester City 2.
Just looking at the way Brighton are setting up, they're playing a higher line, but there was just absolutely no pressure on the ball. And as soon as that happens, it's just that ball over the top every single time. In the first half, they dropped a bit deeper, denied space in behind, and it made it difficult for Manchester City to get joy from that sort of ball. But in credit to Lauren Hemp, you know, she could finish that. She's had the freedom of the Brighton defence in this second half, and she's made the most of it.
A goal of extremely high quality, the ball over the top, and the finish to match. And Manchester City, who are renowned for racking up the goals in this particular fixture, well, they look to potentially already have those 3 points sealed. A long way to go. But Gareth Taylor's side flexing their extensive offensive weapons early on in this second half.
Brighton will not be happy about that, though. They're defending.
Over the opposite flank now is Rasso. Bronze continues a run. That's a lovely ball, and the ball across. Still not cleared. Stanway sees the initial attempt blocked. Second time of asking, and there it is. Wow. The visitors are literally running away with this. Brighton 0, Manchester City 3.
And Man City have started this second half off at real high intensity. Talked about Stanway missing a couple of chances during the first half, and she just doesn't give up. But Brighton, they're just playing completely different to how they played in the first half. They're playing higher, it just allows those wide players to get in behind. They struggle then to get rid of the ball. It's clever play in the end, and tenacious play by Stanway. She wasn't going to be beaten. She wanted to get that goal. Game over now, as far as Brighton are concerned, and they've just allowed Manchester City the opening 6 or 7 minutes in this second half and been blown away.
Georgia Stanway's third goal in her third consecutive WSL campaigns. But the complex of this game has flipped on its head. 3 goals in barely 3 minutes of action. What do you feel? What's the thought for Hope Pyle at the moment here, Lucy?
Well, it's difficult for a manager that, you know, you send your team out in the second half and basically say more of the same, but can we threaten? And then they get beat. But basically, first couple of goals by a ball over the top, no pressure on the ball. The back line is playing quite high, and then they're just being done by that ball over the top. And so disappointing for Hope Pyle, because she'll have been happy with the team in the first half.
Manchester City's tails are up. Coombs looking for Hemp, looking for a second of the afternoon. Excellent save. Rasso. Blocked from Koya Vista. That Brighton goal is under siege.
Yeah, they're running away with it now, Manchester City. And Lauren Hemp is having a field day. She worked hard in that first half to get these sort of opportunities. Good defending in the end. Visto just making sure it's not a fourth.
So the score of the third goal, Georgia Stanway trots over to take the corner. Plenty of height to aim at. Kennedy, White. And we've already seen from Hemp this afternoon her aerial ability. Looking for White, who doesn't connect. Coombs keeps it alive. Good movement from Rasso. Patience from Gareth Taylor's side. And I'm not sure if it was an instant reaction, Lucy, but Brighton have already rejigged that formation. They've gone for a flat back four.
Yeah, they didn't really settle into the second half. I think Man City simplified the way that they were playing going forward. But that ball over the top should not beat a WSL defence as easy as that. Two separate occasions.
Good work from Stokes to retrieve possession. Manchester City on course for a third straight win in the WSL, something, given their lofty standards, it's a huge surprise to many that we've had to get until January for them to be able to rack up that stat, but still yet to be confirmed. But this game does look to be beyond Hope Powell's side.
Yeah, they were patient. I think that's probably the biggest attribute for City in the first half. They were patient. They got chances, they didn't put them away, but I think they probably thought...
Coombs goes for the strike. Look at that. Brighton, architects of their own downfall, but what a strike from Laura Coombs. Brighton 0, Manchester City 4.
Brilliant by Coombs. And again, Brighton making mistakes that directly lead to a goal for the opposition, and the absolutely architects of their own downfall. Take nothing away from Laura Coombs and the way that she finished that. And she was really happy. And again, there's not really any sort of pressure. The ball comes from the goalkeeper, but I think it was Bowman in the end, gave the ball away, and it's just easier. She's still got to finish it, but easier. Lauren Coombs.
Carter can't latch on to the pass to try and change things from a Brighton perspective, but Manchester City maintaining that incredible goal-scoring average, at least 4 per game against Brighton. It was 7-1 in favour of Manchester City roughly 12 months ago, and you can only see more goals going in from a Manchester City perspective, Lucy.
I think they've been ruthless in this second half. They've been helped by Brighton and the mistakes and the way that they've played. And to be fair, it's so disappointing for Brighton because they've just undone all the good work that they did in the first half, but City just showing their class at the start of the second.
So if you are just joining us, it was 0-0 at half-time, but 4-0 is the current scoreline, and we're yet to play an hour. Manchester City running riot here at the People's Pension Stadium. And they are a side of internationals, Lucy, but, confidence has clearly been low in the first half of the season, and results like this will just help them grow.
Yeah, I mean, they're not going to win the league, City, but they'll definitely have a say in who does. As they grow in confidence, as players come back, they'll start beating teams that they'd struggle against in the first half of the season and having an effect. And this is all about Brighton and the mistakes. Walsh gives it out, Bowman gives it away, and then it just allows Laura Coombs. She's still got to score from there, and it's a terrific shot, but I don't think just gifting City opportunities is not going to help Brighton.
Right, again, concede possession in their own half. Looks as though Hope Powell will make some changes. He really needs to try and keep the scoreline down. Green, neat turn. She's quickly swallowed up by 2 Manchester City shirts. It's a Brighton throw. There is movement on both sets of benches. Simmons, certainly from a Brighton perspective, she's going to be brought into the play. So Cagman replaced by Maisie Simmons. It does look as though there'll be a double change for Manchester City. Sada and Becky already stripped off. It's Taib under pressure. Shanks the clearance, but Stanway helps tidy things up.
Taib's made some mistakes in the last few games, but she's been well protected by this City team today.
Bronze striding forwards. Delivery from Lasada. This time it's Williams first to the ball. City with a stranglehold on this game. 4-0 up and looking for more. Stanway in on goal. Shooting opportunity. She should have had a second of the afternoon there for me, Lucy.
Yeah, she gets herself into good positions. Stanway, you know, she did so in the first half, but she couldn't put the chances away. But the thing about her that she just keeps going. You know, she keeps making the runs. She was just put off enough by Danny Bowman.
What do you do if you're Brighton? Do you just literally try and firm things up? Because I think that's what they're trying, but City are just too good.
Yeah, it's such a difficult one because the game was lost in sort of 5 or 6 minutes, wasn't it, of this second half. But, you know, it's all about now is doing things right from now on. Try not to concede any more, but, you know, they've had a good start to this season, but it's about taking as much positive from this game as possible. Try and create some chances for yourselves.
So it's the turn of the visitors to bring in their changes, and Lauren Hemp's afternoon's work is complete. Likewise for Georgia Stanway. And it is Janine Becky and Vicky Lasada who are the replacements.
Seen Vicky Lasada on the bench so many times this season and just cannot understand how she doesn't get any more minutes in this City team. She's such a quality centre midfielder. She gives the ball away just as I say that.
Rare miscue from Manchester City, but yeah, I think, as you rightfully point out, the competition for places at Manchester City is incredible. It's a title-winning squad, but they're far from that, out of the Champions League. But of course, they do have silverware still available, kids of the FA Cup. They want to finish as high up the domestic table as possible. And here's Lasada. Just can't keep the shot down.
Just lost the organisation at the back, Brighton, in this second half. And, you know, there's no going back now. They're 4-0 down, so they have to salvage something from it and just try and be as solid as possible for the remaining half hour of this game. Running right at times, though, City.
There was Rasso there with the chance. Carter continues to work tirelessly, leading that Brighton line, but she's having so little joy. And I'm sure you've been there, Lucy, as a striker, 4-0 down. It's not an enjoyable place out there.
It certainly isn't. I mean, it's been a tough game to start with and not many chances for the likes of Dan Carter. She's done what she can with the balls that she's got, but 4-0 down now. You've just got to keep going.
Becky, a little sloppy in possession for Manchester City. And Carter trying to create something, but not quite on the same wavelength there as Whelan. Greenwood just literally pointing to Kennedy as regards to where she wanted to play it. The New Zealand international comes forward, looking to pick out Becky, who's taken on that wide outlet on the left-hand flank, used so productively by Lauren Hemp. Bit of confusion as regards to the placement of the throw. Simmons. Again, Manchester City just pressing so well to win that ball back, and they get the foul.
Yeah, Man City came into this game hoping to continue the momentum that they started to build up before Christmas, and you know, they've done a really good job, patient in the first half, getting the goals at the start of the second half, and now enjoying themselves.
Thankfully, Kira Walsh is quickly back to her feet there. She's not too happy with the challenge there. Some stern words for referee Emily Heaslett, but a man under pressure for the first half of 2021. Sorry, the second half of 2021, no doubt, in this disappointing campaign for Manchester City. But what Gareth Taylor did say, eventually, once they get back to full strength, be able to show the side that has been so impressive, essentially since they were formed as a WSL team, and battling for bragging rights at the right end of the table. Here comes Stanway, goes past 4 players. What a run. Ellen White to finish it off. Just lets it run across, waits for support, and it's a block there from Letitia. Stanway, Lasada. Bodies on the line from Brighton there, Lucy.
Yeah, good defending in the end, and Man City all want to get involved. All the players want to get involved in the goals. Stanway did well there. That's from a left-back position as well.
Due to the injury problems Manchester City have had, Stanway's been used largely in a defensive capacity. We know what a brilliant foot player she is, full stop, but just offensively today, she's been right at it. Greenwood.
You look at Stanway now playing left back, and that's what it's all about. You know that keep her on the pitch, she'll play anywhere and be probably equally good as it at it.
Clean sheets have been hard to come by for Manchester City so far this campaign, just 2 in the WSL. So lots of positives for Gareth Taylor to take in terms of obviously the variety of goal scorers. But there are still question marks, Lucy, about them defensively. I do feel as though that still needs to be put out there.
Yeah, I do think that they've not really had a settled central defensive partnership because of Steph Horton being injured the majority of the season. You know, I think Alex Greenwood has been unlucky because she's had different partners. It's so difficult to build up relationships and get things going on a game-by-game basis when you don't play with the same players. And so that's why they've made mistakes defensively. Plus, having Roebuck missing is massive as well in goal.
Manchester City edging ever closer to full strength and certainly showing their class this afternoon here down at the People's Pension Stadium, the home of Crawley Town men's team, but also Brighton's women as well as Brighton's under-23 men. They play their games here. Simmons stayed in play, and it is now going to go out for a Manchester City goal kick. For further changes for Manchester City, and most notably there, the club captain, England's captain, Steph Horton. Going to wait a few more moments to that return back to competitive action. Bronze looking for White. The referee's assistance flag has remained down. White just couldn't quite dig the ball from out underneath her feet. It is a Manchester City throw. Bronze with the throw. Into Lasada. Good delivery, keeper can't claim it. Still alive and dangerous from a Manchester City perspective. Brighton once again, ball retention has been one of their many challenges when you're playing such quality opposition, Lucy, it has to be said.
Yeah, the first half they dealt quite well with it because they defended well. They just needed to add the keeping the ball to the game, but I think Man City have been devastated since the start of this second half, and now you're on a hiding to nothing. These Brighton players, but they've got to keep going.
No sign of relenting from Manchester City. Further changes. And it is Kira Walsh who makes way for Angledal. And there we see the club captain's armbands return back to Steph Horton. She replaces Alex Greenwoods, and another one of those returnees, Lucy Bronze. She's back as well, and it's Ruby Mace who's going to slot in at right back. Under pressure, Stanway. Open arms appeal to the referee. It has been that sort of game where the referee has let a lot of feisty challenges go, but Stanway's done complaining, and now she's looking up, trying to add to the Manchester City scoreline. Short-lived though. Simmons finds Green, but she's offside. Wow, what a start to life in the WSL in 2022 for Lauren Hemp. A new contract on Thursday, an assist there.
And the world's her oyster. I think Lauren Hemp, she forced the first goal, scored the second goal, and that was that period of time that just killed off any hopes that Brighton could get themselves back into this game. And you know, she spent the first half, she was City's most threatening attacker as well. And it just helps when you've got somebody who can progress the ball and drive at defenders, and she's been given a well-earned rest for the last half an hour of this game.
The manager, speaking in the build-up to this, says she's a player who can play at the highest level, and equally she returned that, singing his praises in terms of the development, but also that she wants to win the Champions League and the WSL with Manchester City. She can't achieve either of those this season. Well, certainly City are not mathematically out of the title race, but we do anticipate it's not going to be something they'll contest. But they are showing that they're a quality side this afternoon, Lucy.
Yeah, I just think they've been disappointing, really disappointing the first half of the season, so it's up to the team to show what they're all about and try and go as long unbeaten as they can in 2022 until the end of the season. Because there's no edging around the way that they've played, the mistakes that they've made. I know they've had injuries, but that's not been the reason for all the losses in this WSL.
Carter's just gone down off the ball. So Brighton reduced to 10 players while she just gingerly gets back to her feet. And City do kick the ball out of play.
It's always a worry when you see Dan Carter just go down. I don't know whether it's her ankle, hopefully it is, and not a knee. She just felt a little bit of discomfort, I think, as she tried to stand. You talk about Steph Horton coming back, and I think you only notice how good a player is and how effective they are in their absence, and she's been an absolutely massive loss for City, probably one of the main reasons why defensively they've not been as good. Whoever she's next to, she builds that rapport and relationship with. Usually, recently it's been Greenwood, really well balanced centre-half partnership, but I think they will be really happy that they've got her back fit.
I think it has to be said that she was part of the opening 3 games when things weren't going swimmingly, it has to be said, from Manchester City. But injured away on England duty. It's been a long road back since that game against Tottenham in mid-September, but both from a club and an international perspective, certainly with the Euros this summer, it's just a great sight to see, Lucy.
Yeah, I think at the start of the season they had players back late from the Olympics, probably a little bit of fatigue as well. I think all clubs were affected by that. Probably the only one that weren't affected as much was Arsenal, and they took advantage of that.
So Carter does remain on the sidelines. It does appear as though she will be fit to resume action. Brighton return the ball back to Manchester City, and Carter retakes the field, so we're back up to 11 v 11. Horton to White. Rasso, lovely finish. She was so patient, waited till the killer moment. 3 goals in the last 3 games for Rasso. Brighton 0, Manchester City 5.
And Razzo is so bright and infectious, and she just keeps going. I think this is a Route 1 football, but a really important little nod forward by Ellen White into Razzo. She has to keep her composure. She takes a good touch, and it's a terrific finish past Walsh. And you again, when you talk about Steph Horton and her defending, but just linking up with her mate Ellen White, just making sure she gets that head on them. Razzo knows exactly what's going to happen when the ball reaches Ellen White's head.
There's a debut being made here from Brighton. Tori Williams' afternoon is over. Brighton captain being replaced by Emma Kullberg. New signing comes on with a side 5-0 down.
Welcome to the WSL.
Well, Hope Powell did say in a press conference the physicality and the speed of the game is what she's anticipating is going to be the biggest challenge for those new recruits. And this is a prime example of how quickly games can change in this competition. 0-0 at half-time, but Manchester City kicked into 6th gear very early on in that second half. And this game has been taken well beyond Brighton. Horton to Kennedy. Coombs, I think, was anticipating the Canadian to continue her run, but she's looking very sheepishly as to say, was that for me? And Becky makes amends, wins the ball back. Masada just slows things down. I think this is the first touch of the ball of the afternoon for Mace. Another one of the second half substitutes. Lovely little drag back. Unable to pick out a teammate. Whelan challenging. He's able to connect with the flick on. Taib didn't fancy it on a left, but makes a good execution there with the right foot. And Manchester City with a little bit of fortune there, keep hold of the ball. Lasada. The willing run of Rasso. Worked tirelessly all game, the Australian. Checks and waits for support, courtesy of Mace, who just avoids a little bit of embarrassment there by keeping the ball in play. Lasada, lovely shimmy. Trying to play in White, takes it on her own, flicks up off the defender. And there's a 6th. It's definitely going to be Lasada's goal. It was clearly heading towards Megan Walsh, but the keeper completely lost track of the flight there, courtesy of the deflection. Brighton 0, Manchester City 6.
Tell you what, when it's not going for you, any sort of luck is not going for you, and it isn't in this second half. Brighton, that's the sort of thing that happens, and the side is just trying to look really with a bit of a chip from the edge of the area. Brighton can't believe it. I think every Brighton fan in the stadium would never have expected 6 goals after we got to 0-0 at half-time, Tom.
This is life in the WSL. Quality of players at disposal, certainly in these top sides, and it's been a chastening experience so far this afternoon in the second half, it has to be said. Lucy, for any viewers who are just joining us, 0-0. Brighton were more than in this game at half-time.
Yeah, I think they dealt well after the initial onslaught in the first 5 or 10 minutes of the first half. Brighton settled into the game. But I just think that they approached the second half differently. It just allowed City to get in and direct balls, and by the time they'd even taken a breath, Brighton, they were 3-0 down, and that was it, game over.
Kennedy. And you have to credit Manchester City's professionalism here, Lucy. They want
brilliant.
More goals. They want more goals.
They're relentless, and this is more like the old Manchester City, you know, where they score 2, can we score 4, and if we score 4, can we score 6?
A definite statement from Gareth Taylor's side. They've been poor the first half of the campaign, but new year, new Manchester City women, back to their old. But unfortunately for Brighton, things are not changing when it comes to this fixture. They've conceded 27 goals across, as it stands at the moment. This is the 6th time they've met in the WSL. Carter trying to at least claw one back for the home side, being roared on by the joyful, youthful crowd, it has to be said. A lot of youngsters here at the People's Pension Stadium, but so far they've had very little to cheer from a home perspective.
Yeah, I think Hope Powell might be a little bit concerned in the last few games. I know it spans a break, but the team were doing so well that, you know, she just won't want the hard work being undone that happened in the first half of the season and how well they were doing, and it just fizzle out the second half of the season. So a little bit of concern, I think, for Hope Powell of her team.
Well, it is their worst form, Brighton, since 2014. That was the last time they lost 5 games in all competitions. It's rare that they lose back-to-back games in the league, but that's how things are playing out. It's difficult to keep pace with these big, successful clubs, the Chelseas, the Arsenals and the Manchester Cities, who, despite the league table, they are in that equation of the big 3. And this will see them leapfrog Brighton up into 5th, as they try and close the gap on those teams up above them. Rasso still working hard, the Australian. Kennedy ups in front of Carter. Angeldal just takes control of proceedings. Horton. Seen plenty of the ball, the captain, and the touch just lets her down there, but no backing out from that 50-50. Coombs. Space now for Becky. Tries the 1-2 with Stanway. Keep the ball, says manager Gareth Taylor, as Angeldal takes the shots. It's just been one-way traffic, Lucy. Of course, the scoreline suggests that, but Brighton literally have not had a sniff in this second half.
Yeah, Man City have sent blood right at the start of the second half and then just kept going. Every time there's an opportunity, they've got players forward. You know, they know that they've got the positivity and the numbers and the quality as well to finish off these chances.
And of course, like all sides, you know, you as a striker, you want to hog all the goals, but the fact Ellen White's not on the score sheet, it was an own goal, and then 5 different goal scorers from Manchester City as well. Just, like I say, it is a huge statement to the rest of the WSL to think if Manchester City were, you know, not the Manchester City of old, they are well and truly back. I know it's only one performance, but it could be a huge in terms of how teams line up against them for the rest of this season.
Yeah, I think the 2 games before Christmas, they were sort of getting their eye back in terms of their form in the WSL, but I think this is a really commanding performance. Patience in the first half, but a commanding performance in the second half, and confidence is massive, and you can sense the confidence is back.
Whelan being harried there by Rasso. The Australian has been really standout. We've mentioned that she will go back home to Australia with a national side for the Asia Cup, and she's had a very impressive performance. If this is to be a last one in a Manchester City shirt, they do play midweek in the Cup, but potentially a last WSL appearance till she returns back from that competition. Kennedy finds Stanway. Dispossessed into Carter. Connolly's continue to run. Good support. Carter wants it back, but she was never reaching that.
Yeah, there hasn't been many moments of encouragement in the second half for Brighton, but they have to make better decisions against the better teams when you don't get that many of those chances.
Horton. Good game for her to come back in. Of course, she would have been chomping at the bit, wouldn't she, to get involved, but to bring on a player of her who they want to protect, of course. I'm sure she's fully fit, but with the current scoreline, it's an ideal platform for Steph Horton to get back into the action.
Yeah, and they've made substitutions as well and protecting some of the better players. I think Hemp's been excellent, probably the best player for City in this game, but she went off after 60 minutes. But I think her contribution was so important. But just because of the strength in depth on the bench, allowing that
mistake here. We talked about Manchester City, despite the impressive ability to score so many goals, still huge question marks about them defensively, and maybe this is what will prove to cost them when they come up against more attacking, threatening teams, it has to be said, Lucy.
Yeah, just think they just went off the boil, didn't they, for a while. They're 6-0 up, and just got to make sure those passes reach their opponent.
So a double change here for Brighton. Connolly replaced by Simpkins. And it will be Danielle Carter to make way for Robinson. A thankless afternoon's work, it has to be said, for that solitary striker, Danny Carter. But she would have probably anticipated it was going to be a game of very few moments. Manchester City with clear intent from the off to dominate possession. It wasn't until the 48th minute that they were able to open up the scoring, but they have quickly put this one to bed. And that's how you see the current scoreline on your screen. Brighton 0, Manchester City 6. Rasso again intercepts. Coming forward in numbers here, Manchester City. Options for Coombs left and right. Goes to Becky, takes the strike. Will she get a second chance? She does, and it's another good save. White sniffing in and around the 6-yard box there. That would be the icing on the cake for Manchester City, for Ellen White to get in on the act.
Tell you what, Ellen White will not stop until she gets her goal. It's just not falling in front of it. You know, Becky there gets herself in that good position on that left-hand side. And replace Lauren Hemp down this side.
Coombs wins it back for Manchester City. Not short-lived though. Chance for debut girl Kohlberg, who's seen so little of the ball. She's just literally been heading back in defensive duties, and she's having to do that once again as Koivisto nips in front of Rasso, who questions the referee's decision, it's fair to say that. But it will be a Brighton free kick. And that, unfortunately, miscue from Megan Walsh sums up the second half for Brighton and their fans, no doubt watching behind the sofa. It's not been an enjoyable second 45 for Hope Powell's side. And Manchester City, with just 4 minutes remaining, still want more. Just shy of 1,500 fans here watching the proceedings. Lovely feet there from the Sardic, trying to play in Coombs. It's back with the Spaniards. Champions League winner brought in from Barcelona. And it's just not been Ellen White's afternoon, has it? It's fair to say, Lucy.
Oh, she worked so hard, but it just hasn't fallen for her. She just helps. I think she's got the assist with Razzo's goal, but she'll be so frustrated as a centre forward. You just want to be on the score sheet.
Well, Hope Powell gave her side a stern talking to following their last league game, a 2-0 defeat here against Manchester United. It'll be interesting to hear her thoughts post-match after this. Manchester City opting to keep the ball. Stamp their authority on this to say to Brighton, no chance of you retaining possession, with a free kick aimed into the box. They're waiting for opportunities like that, and what a ball from Stanway. Rasso. White's peeled to the edge of the box, finds it. Is this it? It's blocked on the line from Letitia. Excellent defending from the Brighton youngster to keep Ellen White off the score sheet. Back with Walsh. Mace. Flicked on by White, and Rasso will keep that in play. So Lucy, your Barclays player of the match from what you've seen?
Well, I think Lauren Hemp was the best Man City player in the first half, and then I think that she was the start of them getting these goals. It's just how direct she is. She's brave, she wants to get on the ball, and even though she went off in this second half, I think that she's been City's best player, my player of the match. Really exciting young player.
Very exciting on all fronts, Manchester City and England. But it's a club side who are reaping the benefits today. They are going to have to defend here. Robinson, the only player who's seen with gloves on this afternoon. Goalkeepers aside, of course.
I've got gloves on too. I don't see the point in gloves and short sleeve t-shirts either. Don't get it. I'm old, you see. What are you laughing at?
We could only, certainly not laughing at you. We can only assume that's what makes Robinson comfortable, but she won't be comfortable with this scoreline as we tick over into the 90th minute. So it's going to be a Manchester City win, which will see them leapfrog Brighton up into 5th. Start moving up the table in the right direction. Stanway. Sada, once again, just the technical ability of Manchester City in full display here on the BBC. Coombs, who was a bit part player last season, but's been involved in every game so far this campaign. She's got a goal. Just lots of positives when you look all around the field for Manchester City, Lucy.
Yeah, but it wasn't working for them. It still had to click, and it didn't click in the first half of the season. And I think they're slowly getting there. Confidence is a massive thing, and they're getting that back now.
There will be a minimum of 3 added minutes. Pretty sure Manchester City racked up 3 and 3 minutes to really kick-start this game with that own goal. Scored by Tori Williams, and the floodgates well and truly opened. There's been one of the standout players, Hayley Rasso, the Australian. Worked tirelessly, switching flanks and getting a deserved goal. Neat feet there by Simmons, the crowd like that. She can't quite play the through ball. Are you worried from a Brighton perspective, Lucy? This is obviously a scoreline which makes headlines, and when we talk about them maybe being a side to challenge for European football, is this a firm, swift reality check?
Yeah, but I'm not particularly worried. I think that Hope Powell and Brighton have done absolutely brilliant in the WSL. I think Man City can do this to a lot of teams, you know, when they're on their day, which there haven't been many of those days this season. But Brighton just need to concentrate on the next game and getting those points there. And you know, they've got a couple of new signings, they've got players back from injury, and they have got that quality as well.
It is, unsurprisingly, their biggest defeat of the campaign. Still chance to try and get a consolation, as Brazil got caught in 2 minds there between a cross and a shot, and it ends up behind the back of the Manchester City goal.
Brazil's been a bright spark, hasn't she, at times, particularly in the first half. The outlet down that right-hand side.
Manchester City seen this one out now as that ball's fizzed into Becky. And it's the pace that they play at, Lucy, isn't it? That's the, you know, the speed of movement and just quick ball all the time from Manchester City.
Yeah, as soon as they get it, they're expansive, they move the ball quickly. Then when they lose it, they squeeze back in and just smother teams. And I think it's just worked very effectively for them today against Brighton.
Horton, a rare bit of defensive duties for the Manchester City captain, who's officially back on the sideline since mid-September. He's Manchester City's injury list slowly but surely reduced still. 2 goalkeepers on the sidelines in terms of preparations. Esme Morgan, Chloe Kelly. Of course, there's no Caroline Weir or Khadija Shaw in the matchday squad at all today. So still lots more positives to move forward for Manchester City. As they look to just firm up the 3 points here, and a comfortable collection for Taib. And immediately sets the team up and running, but that will be all of today's action. Wow, what a spectacle we've seen here on the BBC. 0-0 at half-time, but a full-time score, Lucy, of Brighton 0, Manchester City 6.
They've been absolutely ruthless, Manchester City, in this second half. They've scored the goals. They were patient the first half. Lauren Hemp, for me, player of the match, and I think just getting back to the best now.
Full time, Brighton 0, Manchester City 6.
What's a second half for Manchester City? 0-0 at the break here at the People's Pension Stadium. But Manchester City have won this one by 6 goals to 0. 3 goals in the opening 6 minutes of that second half. I watched this one in the company of the former Brighton defender, Fern Whelan. Fern, you were quite complimentary about the first half from Brighton, the way they controlled Manchester City. What did you make of that second half?
They'll be really disappointed, obviously, conceding 6 goals. I just think as soon as they came out, you know, the own goal by Victoria Williams straight away kind of just puts them on the back foot. It changes the way the game is. It gives City a bit too much confidence. And then, yeah, they just fell to pieces, unfortunately. 3 goals in 3 minutes or something like that.
Yeah, we can see Hope Powell there going round on the pitch. Doesn't look obviously too happy, hugging Ellen White as well. Gareth Taylor, though, far happier afternoon for him. 3 wins in a row now for Manchester City. Is it starting to click for them?
I think so. I think he'll be happy to have the likes of Lucy Bronze back, as we spoke about, and then Steph Houghton getting on the pitch for the last 20 minutes. I think there'll just be a feel around the team now of a little bit of confidence. You can sense in the dressing room they'll be all bigging each other up, and actually they're on the rise now rather than on the downfall. So I think they'll be really positive and obviously very happy with that scoreline.
Lucy described them in commentary as being ruthless. Is that a good word to describe that performance, particularly at the start of that second half?
Yeah, when I heard her say it, I thought, you know what, you've hit the nail on the head. Ruthless is the word. Like, they literally in front of goal, they punished Brighton so often, and obviously we complimented Megan Walsh so much in the, you know, before the game and in the first half as well. And unfortunately, you know, the goals they conceded in the second half, they will be disappointed with. But City, you know, they'll be really pleased with that, and it stands them in good stead going forward for the next game.
Well, let's remind ourselves of the 6 goals that Manchester City did score in that second half then. It took them just 3 minutes, and it was a nightmare start, wasn't it? A Williams' own goal to give them the lead, Fern.
Yeah, and I think, you know, Lauren Hemp is, again, being dangerous down that left side. You know, she's really positive. She drives forward, and, you know, Victoria Wills will be really disappointed with that. I think she'll obviously want to have hooked the ball away from goal, and, you know, Ellen's behind. Ellen White is waiting to put the ball in the back of the net. But yeah, I think the same again, Lauren Hemp down this left side. I think Megan Walsh gets caught in, you know, in 2 minds there.
Brilliant ball as well.
But yeah, the ball across the top, you know, puts her in, you know, decision making, what do I do? Do I go out? Do I stay in my goal? And a great finish from Lauren Hemp, really good finish from here.
Yeah, it took just a minute longer for Manchester City to score a third. Georgia Stanway on target this time, and Brighton had opportunities, didn't they, to clear this one?
Yeah, they just didn't clear their lines quick enough. You know, they had 2-3 chances to clear the ball, and Lucy Bronze down that right side causing problems. But you can see here it's just a bit half-hearted from the Brighton team to actually get the ball away from their goal. And you know, 3-0 down at that point, it's game over, unfortunately. Yeah, again, see here, it's just sloppy. Brighton have been too sloppy. You can't do this against a team like City with the players they've got. So yeah, I just, you know, they'll be really disappointed with the way they approached that second half.
Yeah, that was arguably the pick of the goals. A brilliant one there from Coombs, her second goal of the campaign. And then it took them a little bit longer, 18 minutes later on the 73rd minute, Hayley Rasso scoring this one. What did you make of that one?
I think, you know, she does really well. You know, she carries on her run, really direct, and she's thinking, I want to be on the score sheet, I want to join in with this. And she times it right, waits for Megan Walsh to come out, and she finishes it perfectly.
Yeah, and then the scoring was wrapped up on the 76th minute. Lasada getting in on the act. The remarkable thing about this is 6 goals scored. Ellen White not involved in any of them, but that was a lovely finish as well. But it may be wrong-footed. The keeper there, do you think that's like
Yeah,
deflection?
I think we can see a deflection in that one as well, so we can't really be too harsh on Megan Walsh in the goal on that one. It was unfortunate, but as you say, Ellen White tried her best to get on the score sheet, but she just couldn't do it. I think she had one cleared off the line at one point as well.
Yeah, we're seeing Steph Horton there as well, back on the pitch. Another huge positive for Manchester City and what's been a really good afternoon for them.
Yeah, I mean, she's their leader. She's so experienced. She will help them keep numerous clean sheets now. I think a real positive for Gareth Taylor in that that's a clean sheet for them now, and they will go on to get more, hopefully, for them. But having Steph back in the side, you know, England captain, we know what she's capable of. And, you know, going forward, I think that can only, do really good things for them.
Yeah, we are about to be joined by the Manchester City boss, Gareth Taylor. So we'll just make way for him now as he comes around the pitch and joins us. A big smile on his face. Gareth, if I can ask you to just take... There we go behind us. We're just seeing shots of Steph there. We're just talking about how good it was to have her back on the pitch. But let's firstly talk about the perfect start to the new year for you. What did you make of that?
New year. I thought it was a good performance from us. I thought there were, good parts to our play in the first half. We just lacked that final pass. That final action, we just needed to take a little bit more care. But, the first good pass we made in the second half, I think, was Kira Walsh, and we get in and score from an own goal. And the problem you have when you play against Brighton is they're so determined that and we had the same beginning of last season when we won here 7-1, is they never give up. They never give up, and they come and engage and press. So you don't have that kind of comfortable afternoon that you would expect. It's always quite tight. You've got to be resolute and you've got to be determined. But I thought some of our play in the second period was very, very good.
What was the message at half-time? Was it just keep playing as you are, the goal will come?
Yeah, I mean, listen, I had to praise the way that they played, but obviously you're a little bit annoyed because we haven't taken one of our chances or one of our good moments. And that was it, really. Just spoken a little bit about kind of back four squeezing up slightly a little bit more, but it was difficult because the sun was low in the first half. But it was more about that final pass. Final pass gets us into a better decision on goal. Thought we had moments in the first half, but not enough chances. And in the second half, we really opened up, and you could see the players played with confidence. And football never changes. Once you a couple of goals ahead, you start to play your game then, which is what we're good at.
Yeah, lots of different goal scorers in there. We were just laughing, so it's quite remarkable not to see Ellen White on target when you've just scored 6 there. But a word on Lauren Hemp. You told me before the game how pleased you were that she'd signed that new contract. She was Lucy Ward's player of the match. She was brilliant again, wasn't she?
Yeah, I mean, one of the messages I said at half-time was get the ball to Lauren as much as we can, because you could see she was really at it today, and she brings such energy and directness to the team. Sometimes we overuse it a little bit more, but yeah, she's great, and we're really glad to have her. And the same with Ellen. Ellen's putting a real leader's performance out there today. She would be disappointed she didn't score, but she had a hand in a lot of the goals, and we had a bit of a Route 1 goal which Ellen supplied, so it was nice to score that as well.
And how good was it just to have Lucy Bronze back in the team? And, we saw Steph get on at the end as well. So how good is it for that?
Yeah, I mean, it's been a difficult season in that respect. And not having Lucy until January is crazy, really. And, Steph we had at the beginning of the season and lost her quite early on as well. And it's been a while to get her back. And, we've got good options at the moment. But the way the world is at the minute, it can change in 48 hours. And, I was speaking to Hope about it before the game that we both had issues before Christmas. We lost a couple of players this week as well, so you never really know what's around the corner.
Clean sheet as well, that must be pleasing, because I know you haven't kept as many of those as you'd have liked so far this season. Yeah, and I mean, look, people can look to that, and it's definitely down to personnel. We've had to change so much in our back four. We've been missing bodies with all of the injuries we've had. We've had Georgia playing back there a lot. We've had Alex has probably played with so many different partners at centre-back. So, really nice to get a clean sheet. And what can you achieve now this season? You're up to 5th. You're mathematically not out of the title race, but what can you achieve? What are you targeting? Well, we're targeting the very top, as always. And when you work at a club like City, that's the aim. And, we suffered early on in the season. There's no secret with that, with the amount of players that we had missing. But I think, we're making steady progress now. We're not getting ahead of ourselves. We need to back these types of performances up with another one. We play Conti Cup on Wednesday night, and an opportunity to get to a quarter-final and then back away again on the road. We seem to be on the road a bit in January, away at Villa next week. So, one game at a time. You say one game at a time. What's it like managing at the moment in the current climate that we're in? We're seeing games being postponed. We know you've had your COVID issues as well. It must make it tricky to never know what's coming one day to the next.
Yeah, I mean, you are disappointed when games are called off. I mean, sometimes your squad is depleted, and ours has been depleted a little bit, injuries, a little bit COVID, and it's never easy. You want to try and play and keep momentum as much as you can, and this felt a little strange today, having had the Christmas break and not played for a month. But I think most coaches will tell you it's powers of being able to adapt at the last minute. Changes enforced on you, what you're going to do, games called off. It's pretty manic, but you crack on and deal with it, and the players are really resolute and their attitude is first class, so it's a pleasure to work with them.
I'm sure it's a pleasure to work with them when they put in a performance like that as well. So Gareth, thank you so much for joining us, and thanks for putting on quite the second half show for us. We enjoyed that very much. Happy New Year. Thank you. Great to get the thoughts there of Gareth Taylor. Well, a reminder, there is still plenty of football coming up on the BBC. You can listen to live commentary from the FA Cup third round. It's Tottenham versus Morecambe. That is live now on BBC Radio 5 Live. Then later tonight, Match of the Day, FA Cup highlights, all of the goals tonight at 10:30 p.m. on BBC One. And of course, that will be followed by the women's football show, not just the goals from Manchester City, but all of the goals from the WSL this weekend. 3 games in total. That'll be on BBC One as well tonight at 11:35 p.m. And then next weekend, we'll have more live WSL for you on the BBC, this time on BBC One as Arsenal host Reading. That kicks off next Sunday at 2:15 p.m. Well, what's an afternoon of football we have been treated to here. The first instalment of the WSL in 2022, and it did not disappoint, did it? 6 goals from Manchester City as they beat Brighton and Hove Albion by 6 goals to 0. My thanks, as always, to Fern Whelan for joining us. Sorry, it wasn't quite the result you were after, but thanks for braving the elements to be with us this afternoon. We will, of course, be back next weekend with Arsenal versus Reading, but do not forget to watch the Women's Football Show tonight live on BBC One. Bye-bye.